We're flat out. Now, Ron, this knee of yours.
Here's the injury register, Phil.
Really what other agreed arrangements are whatever mechanism you like, so long as staff are agreed on that particular consultative arrangement, they have been consulted.
We've found it easier in our organisation just to make it like a standing item on our every day or every week staff meeting agenda, and that way we know that we're covering it all the time.
So you're looking at your eyes at the right distance from the screen.
Yes, I had to raise it up just a little bit high.
I was changing the wheel, there was grease on the floor. I guess I was a bit tired. My foot slipped off the wheel brace and I went over.
Thanks, Jude. We got to do something about this.
You clean up the grease at the end of each shift.
Bullshit. You spill it, you clean it up right there.
It really doesn't matter what the incident is. The method of solving the problem is the same in all cases. And documentation is an important legal requirement. So, how can companies identify hazards? Through workplace inspections and audits, workers' compensation records, the register of injuries, a hazard reporting system for problems that don't result in injury, and of course, running through all of this, consultation.
What were you doing when you slipped over?
I was taking the wheel off. I was undoing the nut, it was a bit stiff, so I used my foot.
Well, maybe that's the problem. He's on one leg when he's doing it.
If there was no grease, there would be no problem.
Of course, it's easy enough to identify hazards. Much harder to know where to start.
The advice I'd give to other bus companies would be to start very simply.
Certainly, identify what your problems are, but prioritise.
Here, the new legislation provides some help. It says that once employers have identified the hazards, they need to assess the risks of those hazards. In assessing the risk of hazards, we look at how likely the hazard is to cause a problem and how serious the impact will be if it occurs. Obviously, something with a strong likelihood of happening that is going to result in a serious injury should be more of a priority than something that is only going to cause a bump or a scratch.
I was down in the garage the other day and I saw this mechanical device. You put it on the nuts to make them easy to get them undone.
It's called a pneumatic wrench.
Well, can't we get one of these to save him pushing and shoving?
Mate, when did it happen?
6, just before knock-off.
Right at the end of the shift. You were probably absolutely knackered.
Why don't you do the wheels in the middle of the shift and then maybe leave the fiddly things to the end?
Mate, that's it. We organise your job so that you do the heavy stuff early on when you're fresh.
Maybe after morning tea.
Yeah.
Of course, once hazards have been identified and their seriousness assessed, we need to do something about them. Again, the OHS regulation provides some guidance. It mandates what is called a hierarchy of control for controlling hazards in the workplace. This really means attempting the most effective type of control first. And the most effective control is always to eliminate the problem completely. Now, let's look at each of these in a little bit more detail. Pretty swish, eh?
A hierarchy of control can be summarised as simply doing the most effective things first.
Take, for example, drivers having manual handling problems from physically changing the destination signs on the bus. Now, according to the hierarchy of control, the first way to get rid of a problem is by eliminating it altogether. How have some of them eliminated it? By installing an electronic destination sign. How's it going? Now, next is substitution. This could be something as simple as substituting a more ergonomic seat for the driver. And in the workshop, substituting less hazardous substances for toxic chemicals is always an important consideration. The next thing is to isolate the hazards. Here they've established walkways, no-go zones, and have chained off access to dangerous areas such as the pits. Now, on the bus itself, putting a screen behind the seat may help isolate the driver from potential hazards. In terms of engineering controls, changes to seating, ramps for people in wheelchairs, wheel dollies, slide boards and portable lifters in the workshop along with electronic fare collection and bus security systems, are all examples of engineered solutions. In terms of administrative control, it might be rotating bus drivers more quickly through their shift. Training on particular issues, for example, manual handling, induction training for new workers, and procedures outlining the right way to do a particular task.
Lift it towards the vehicle like that. If you lift it and twist it, you have potential for injury. Okay, similarly with unloading.
The last cab off the rank is personal protective equipment. That's sunscreen, sunglasses and hats for bus and coach drivers, brightly coloured vests for managers, workers and visitors around the yard, and proper protective footwear for mechanics, all help ensure that safety is maintained in the workplace. There are many different ways of coming at a particular problem, but the method always remains the same. Identify the workplace hazards, assess the risks, and work out controls to eliminate or reduce them as a danger. And the best way of achieving it is through consultation. Simple.
You want to raise some issues concerning safety?
Yeah, there's been some of the guys who've been jumping across the pit. It's quite dangerous.
How do you reckon we could solve this?
It's not prescribed.
You may think the task is not achievable, but if you start, no matter how small, and you work at it small bits at a time, involving your staff, and seeking information from booklets such as the BCA's put together, and other locations such as your insurer, then it becomes a little bit infectious. And I encourage everybody to at least start.
And besides, it's now a legal obligation for all workplaces, so you better get cracking.
Looks a bit heavy, mate. Do you need a hand? Yeah, thanks, mate.